Well, a lot of people have been saying lots of predictions about, the financials and all that kind of stuff. Honestly, I would have to say I don't really tune into collective energy in that way. For me, it just feels like, you know, um, stay in the expanded view of we're in this space where these things have to break down. We know they're going to break down, but that you're going to be safe. And when I stay there, then it's like, okay, I don't have an attachment. I don't know what it's going to look like. So there's no need to worry about, what the impact is going to be to the money or to this or to that. It's like, no, we're always taken care of.
Welcome to Conversation for the Soul. Today, I'm going to chat with Robyn Ringgold. And Robyn is an intuitive, an activator, an alchemist, a frequency worker, shamanic practitioner. This woman, oh my gosh, leads such a serendipitous life. It is amazing to hear about some of her stories, but she is just a beautiful, multifaceted soul, and I can't wait for you to hear this conversation. We're going to take a little bit of a deep dive into dark nights of the soul and some of the trauma that comes with that and how to work through it. And then we talk about some of Robyn's adventures. She is quite the world traveler. And she's one of those people that when her higher self says, we're going here, even if it's next week, she follows. Wasn't that great? Anyway, I hope you enjoy this conversation that Robyn and I had as much as I did. Well, it's my pleasure to be here with you today, Robyn. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me today. I'm excited.
I am too. I remember finding you on Facebook and I'm like, who is this world traveler and nature lover? I was just immediately magnetized to you because of that. And then I come to find out you're like right down the road from me in Sarasota. That's so awesome.
Yes, yes. I'm originally from Maryland, but I'll say, guided to move to Sarasota in 2020, right in the midst of our shutdown. So it was really
Wow.
interesting because I came when there were probably not too many people out. The beaches were empty. So it was a
Mm.
really beautiful time for me.
I remember that. I remember that. Well, I want to circle back to that, but let's start with the question I like to ask everybody. Tell me and tell everyone about your awakening journey. When did that start to unfold for you, or did it unfold multiple times for you?
Yeah, it's really interesting because so I'm 51 this year, or yes, I turned 51 this year, and I would say when I was in my 20s, early 20s, I had some really intense experiences. I was very open. I mean, I was doing like solstice gatherings in my backyard with my friends, probably
Wow.
before I knew really what the solstice was. But I remember we had like a blanket and we're like, oh, we're going to do this solstice thing. Um, and I used to practice martial arts. I did Tai Chi for a while. And so I was really opening to energy and what it felt like in my body and having some kind of what I would have called back then paranormal experiences. Not
Ooh.
anything like so, grand, but just small little things that said, wait a minute, there's something else going on here. And I was always intrigued by cultures and nature. And so that was kind of like a little path that I was taking. And when I was in college, I guess a year before I graduated from college, just some part of me just really started going inward. I didn't want to drink, I didn't want to party. I started meditating. I became a vegetarian at that time. Remember, I cut my hair off for the first time and kind of went natural. So it's like I had a massive change then. And then, if I were to fast forward over the next few years after I graduated, I started studying all these different religions and practicing like with this Taoist group. I had moved to Houston, Texas, and I practiced this Taoism. and we used to do lots of, I would say, bowing and I guess you call it prostrating, meditation. We used to have lectures and then all eat together. And then I went from that to kind of moving more into, I would say, finding a guru and kind of going to India and, doing satsang every week. So I did that for a few years. And then when I was 25, I had my first daughter. So when I had my first daughter, I just knew instinctively I wanted to have her at home. We were very strict with our diet, the way that we lived. So I feel like that all kind of was like very innate, I will say. And then, and we studied lots of different things, always meditated. And so that was with my first husband. And I would say my first really massive experience with, I would say, even dark night of the soul happened probably a few years, even before I had my first daughter at 25, and then another one after having my second daughter a few years later. So my first marriage broke up, and I moved back to Maryland with my family from Houston. And when I moved back, I said, okay, I'm not doing anything spiritual. I don't want any more teachers. I don't want to I really was kind of like, I'm just going to raise my children and I'm not doing anything else.
You bottled up the genie. It doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work at all. And literally within, I would say, a few weeks of going back to Maryland, I started practicing Agnihotra, which is kind of like a Vedic fire ceremony. So I used to do that at like 4 a.m. in the morning with a group, and we used to, chant mantras and I can't think of the word right now. I want to say Sudra, but I don't think that that's the right name. But so it was like it just was such a natural part of my being to meditate and be with other people and kind of explore this part of myself. And I would say when my daughters were a bit younger, I used to be a part of the Art of Living Foundation. And I traveled again to India, and I used to do weekly kriyas, and I really started to have more experiences with meditation. But then I would just say I would fast forward to 2011. I got married the second time. So basically I was a single parent, and life was fine. I meditated. I did, it wasn't a heavy spiritual practice, but it underlied kind of everything in my life. And then in 2011, I got married the second time. And that really, I went through a really massive dark night of the soul in 2012. One that really kind of stripped me bare, triggered my deepest core wounds and all that good stuff. So from there, I did some traditional therapy for the first time in my life and really dug through some of my childhood core wounds. And from there, it's like I started listening to YouTubes, I started getting sessions, I started opening up to, oh yeah, I kind of remember all of this stuff. And oh yeah, this is what this was, but now I'm actually able to experience it and, really to take a look at life with that lens of, oh, okay, this was my soul evolving, and these were the things that I was holding inside that were showing up on the outside through people and experiences. So,
Wow. So on the dark night of the soul, if you don't feel comfortable talking about it, we don't have to, but what aspect of those each time triggered you into your like next level, kind of leveling up, so to speak, spiritually? How did that transpire?
Okay, I would say that so the second one I'll talk more about. So the second marriage, it triggered my wounds of, my self-esteem. I also went through a financial crisis at the same time. So it's like about 5 things happened in my life at the exact same time that I got married to my second husband. And so my finances took a complete crash pretty much, and I
Mm.
ended up filing for bankruptcy. So then I felt like, I was a failure, and, you know, I have these two daughters and they're depending on me, and I failed. Now I've gotten married a second time and I failed. So that whole mindset of I've done something wrong, I wasn't worthy of having, um, this husband and a stable life, even though I had had that up until then. So just like the core wounds of, um, really self worth, I would have to say, like just the deep, low self worth, really triggered, like, those deepest fears of not having, of losing everything, of, and also embarrassment and shame. Like, here I am, you think you would have grown and you would pick a suitable mate for the second husband. And so, with some embarrassment and shame there. And yeah, I think all of those were just huge triggers to kind of see, wait a minute, something else is underlying these choices that I've made in my life.
What were some of the key things that help you process and move through all of that?
I would say initially really understanding the root of those triggers and really going back and looking and dissecting my life up into that point and really seeing, how did I make the choices that I had made? What did that look like? Where was I coming from? And I think I was in a really safe space because for a long time I just focused on my children. So I didn't have, like, any relationships that really triggered those wounds. I dated, but it wasn't anything that really, made me like really look at myself. And so I was kind of smooth sailing for a long time, and then wow, like it came in almost like it feels like it guts you, like strips you to your bones bare.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So how do you feel like I know you're a healer, energetic, Akashic reader, you do a lot of things. Um, what's your thought on the continual process of healing and moving through some of those traumas? Because some people I feel have the mindset, oh, you're a teacher now, you're a healer now, you've done it all, you've worked through all that. But I can tell you, it keeps bubbling up. And then when you
Oh
think you've
yeah.
got it all done, it'll bubble up again.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I look at it as we're on this continuous journey and we're always evolving. Um, we're always healing at much deeper levels. And so now I feel like it's a bit more bearable. So now when it comes up, when something comes, it's like, oh, okay, I'm being triggered right now. Like, where is this coming from? Is there anything I need to see? Like, what's the root of it? Is it in my body? Like, do I feel it in an area in my body? So I feel like being able to identify what's happening is so much, the ability to do that, is so helpful. And I will have to say that having friends that you can, the two of you can kind of get together, and, when you have that other, lens or that other energetic, it's much easier to see, oh, this is what it is. And, sometimes it's, I got to go cry. Sometimes it's, like, oh my God, I don't want to do any of this anymore and I'm done and it's just too much. But that doesn't last for very long anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. So what oh, it just flew out of my head. Okay, it'll come back if it's meant to come back. So let's talk a little bit about your nature, your love for nature, because you do have a very strong shamanic energy about you. And I'm guessing that's, part of your draw and probably have some indigenous lineage. Pretty sure you and I have been together on some of those occasions. Talk about what nature means to you and maybe how people can fold that back into their daily life a little bit more.
Right. So when I started really doing that healing work and really finding myself, I mean, the pull to just be outside was so strong. So I had a full-time job and I used to like drive home like 45 minutes and I would stop at a park on my way home. So I literally was walking a park like almost every day, no matter what season, the weather, any of that. And when I was outside, I started finding that, wow, like my heart just kept bursting open. Um, I had this like these immense healings. And I felt like, I was finding this part of myself that I had kind of forgotten. And I always loved being out in nature. My daughters and I, we always hiked and, kayaked and all that good stuff. But something different was happening where I felt like, wait a minute, somebody is speaking back to me. So I'm receiving like this feedback now. And, one of my sessions when I started really getting sessions done at this point, one of my sessions was with a woman who's like, oh, you're like you're like an old shaman. Like that's what you've been doing like almost every lifetime. And I was like, really? And I'm like, oh yeah, that kind of resonates. But, I wouldn't have put that title on it maybe, but just just my heart opening when I was outside, just like it was so healing for me. And I would say that, I mean, in my sessions, I'm usually telling people, even if you don't live somewhere where there's a beautiful park, just find a tree to go and just touch and form a relationship with. Just put your bare feet on
Yes.
the earth. It's like it doesn't have to be this elaborate thing. It can be as simple as, a neighborhood park. And I just want to say that sometimes I would be even at work and I would just feel like, okay, I need to just go outside. I would just Google, closest park. And I would end up in these most amazing places and meet trees that just felt like, oh my God, like my best friend. So it doesn't have to be like, something like you don't have to go to Mount Shasta just to
Yeah.
have this experience.
What is it with trees? I mean, seriously, I do feel connected to some when I'm out and about, like I've had a relationship with them or something at some level. What is that connection about?
Wow. I've actually met trees that I felt were like my old friends. And I, I feel that it is our connection to the earth. And I mean, if you think about native or indigenous peoples who call them standing people, I mean, they're much more connected to us than we could imagine. I mean, as soon as I start talking about this, I feel this huge energy coming in. And when I meet a tree out, if I'm just out and about, if I go back and journey that night, a lot of times I'll have some interaction at a deeper level with the tree. So maybe I'll go down inside and it leads me to something, or I find out there's a deeper connection. Maybe I have had some kind of relationship with it, or it takes me to meet some type of, I'll say, part of myself. So,
Mhm.
they're much more that, I mean, everything is sentient. So when we start really understanding that and we start forming that, I would say that relationship with everything that is around us, then everything speaks to us and interacts with us. So, yeah.
It feels like they're also incredible antenna for us to connect. When I've been out, sorry, I have a very needy cat. When I'm out and about, I find that they're pulling in information for me. It's like when I'm amongst the trees, they'll start pulling it in and I can receive it so much easier. Have you noticed anything like that?
Yes, absolutely. And honestly, sometimes I feel like I get taken down into the earth to receive some type of
Mhm.
information or connection, I would say. So, yes, definitely.
Wow. So I was looking over your website before I got on here with you, and you have so many modalities that you work within. What one's your favorite out of all of them, and
Wow.
why?
I definitely say the light language and toning. And it's taken some years to be really comfortable to bring forth like sounds and just to allow it to come through without saying, oh my god, somebody's going to think that I'm absolutely crazy, or what will they think. But now I just allow it to come through, and I feel like I would say that's probably my soul's I don't want to say specialty, but like like that's my highest soul alignment, to bring forth like those kinds of harmonics, I would say.
How would you feel about sharing something like that?
Of course, I would love to.
Well, if anytime you're comfortable.
Okay. So I'll just talk a little bit more before I start that, because I'm kind of like, my body is really, and maybe this is the case for every other people, so I'm not saying it's just me, but my body really is like an open channel. So when the energy comes in, I mean, I literally, it's very visceral for me. And when I speak light language, it isn't just one particular language that I speak. It's kind of like, um, I mean, I can just be thinking about one thing and then the energy will come. So it's almost like I'm almost like a I don't even know the words to describe it, but I feel like I'm very open, and I pick up lots of different energies, which of course you have to be very careful with, but um, there isn't just like one single focus, is kind of what I'm trying to get at, if that makes sense.
Do you know when you're speaking it, do you know what it means?
So typically it just depends. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Because sometimes I can be giving a message to someone and I'm simply speaking, and it is something that I can feel when I'm saying to them. Other times I can speak it and it's more of like I'm being told something. And then other times I'm breaking up energies or density in the body. So that can be very different, where there isn't a translation. It's literally just frequency that's going into the body.
I could totally
So
see that. So when did this come on for you? Was it something that all of a sudden just came out one day?
no, not at all. And so if I go back to kind of my awakening journey, in I think it was 2016, I took my daughter, my youngest daughter, to the Metropolitan Museum in New York City. I was living in Maryland at the time, and she's an artist. And so we went there, and it was really interesting. There's an Egyptian exhibit there. And so I'm walking through the exhibit and I'm just joking with her, like, oh, like I didn't even know this was going to be here. I was all excited. We get through the whole exhibit and I was like, had so much energy. Like it was crazy. So we get to the end, and Sekhmet, the statue of Sekhmet, was at the end. And as soon as I stood in front of it, it was like someone had punched me in my chest. That's how the energy hit me. Whew. And once that happened, I had already, prior to that, I had been doing shamanic journeying, and I used to do like shamanic journeys for people. But I felt like after I was in front of her and had that, what I would call maybe activation or remembrance, things started to open a bit more. And fast forward, I had this really incredible trip to Egypt, that Sekhmet woke me up in the middle of the night and said, you need to go to Egypt next week.
Oh
And I was
my.
like, how can I go to Egypt next week? That's crazy. And I'm like, I just heard that, as I didn't really hear that. But I ended up in Egypt for the equinox in 2017, and I met an entire group of people that I had lifetimes with, and lots of things opened from that trip. And yeah, it's a big story, but a lot opened from there. And then just kind of as I've progressed over the years, and as I've integrated more of myself, and really, like, I would say my galactic aspects or other dimensional aspects, I feel like each one kind of opened something new, if you will.
Do you think like it's been said that the Atlanteans, when they escaped after their their area was decimated, that some of them escaped to Egypt. Have you heard that?
Yes, absolutely. And other
Okay.
parts of the world.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right. Do you feel any connection to Atlantis, or is it more
Yes.
of a, okay.
Yes.
How could you not, being in Florida, right?
Yes. Also Lemurian though. I feel like even really strong energies from Lemuria and
Hmm.
lots of indigenous lifetimes as you mentioned before. So,
Yeah, yeah, I feel Lemuria too, especially when I am in the Pacific. If I am like on the big island of Hawaii, it just knocks me on my butt. It's
yes.
powerful there.
Yes, I've been once. Yes.
So, would you like to share with us a little bit of your light language?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So first I would just like to say that everybody can just set the intention to receive what's in their highest good or their highest soul embodiment. And just taking a deep breath to tune into the high heart. And I'll just set the intention just to bring through a deeper connection with our own hearts, with our own knowing and remembrance. Misatila kin mahatila okwe. Kematile kitsatur shalakinda akwe. Kematile umbu okwe. Kisatu ula lahadita anakia. Kematala usoto kwe. Kitalo umba ala atakia satui. Antale etala ato akwete. Kitali kisan tu ushinete. Kimatale ina aka ao o shinate la undu. Kimatile eta o shunutia. Ku maha ha asaso matia. Kimatu yishinatia. Kitala o matila inda o umbo e to ushinatia. Kimasu ushishita la ana. Kimatila ati so uku yishishatakila inda o. Kita takinne kita tikita tikitutu umma kita likita kita tutuku kiu ku muiu kiu kiu tiu. Just deep breaths, just allowing that to settle. So I'd love to know what you experienced.
I was feeling it kind of tingling through my whole body. And it almost felt Lemurian to me. I don't know. What do you think?
I actually didn't get like exactly who. It just felt kind of like my, I would say, higher self. Um, and I definitely felt like it almost reminded me of like a pinhole, and it just got like wider and wider and wider.
Mm,
Yeah.
beautiful. So, was that an energetic transmission, or was there um, any verbiage that came through that you could translate?
No, I didn't have any translation. It
Okay.
just felt mostly energetic. It's interesting because there are some people that I've worked with before who completely translate everything I just said. So,
Wow.
I don't know. I don't always get um, exactly what I'm saying. Sometimes I just have the overall feeling. And sometimes a vision comes with it as well. It just depends.
Wow. I've only had light language verbally come through for me um, like 2 or 3 times, and it was very specific circumstances. Um, but I do have with the hands.
Mm-hmm.
light language come through. I almost feel like I was just talking with a friend of mine the other day about it. I feel like I have witch within my lineage,
Mm-hmm.
not what the Americanized version or the bad version of the witch, more of, you know, the nature witch.
Mm-hmm.
And that really comes through for me a lot when I'm out in nature or I'm connecting with elementals or orbs and that sort of thing.
Yes, yes.
Do you
I,
ever get the hand light
oh yeah.
language?
Actually, you might have had your eyes closed, but my hands were moving.
Oh, I did. I had my eyes closed. Yeah, I
Yes.
feel it come through. I feel almost like it's part of an incantation, so to
Mm.
speak, for me. Um, but I don't know. I mean, there's so much to learn.
Yeah. I mean, it has definitely evolved over the years. I mean, when I first started, it sounded like an insectoid language. And I was like,
Wow.
oh my goodness, if I'm going to speak like that, like, no way. And I mean, I remember at some point my arm used to like swing. And I even now I get lots of facial stuff, but I mean, it has definitely evolved and it changes every time, you know, I guess you integrate another part of yourself, it changes. So it's
Yeah.
it's always evolving. It's kind of fascinating.
I wanted to, in the beginning, you brought up moving to Sarasota in 2020, and I wanted to circle back to that because that was a very pivotal year for many. I think that was the year when the earth shook and it was like, okay, everybody, time to wake your ass up
Right.
if you're not awake already. And those that are awake really, I don't know, I kind of liked it a lot because I like the quiet and I like the solitude and hey, I can go into hermit mode. That's cool.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
How did you feel moving and in the midst of 2020 and what did it bring up for your soul that year?
It was amazing. When we first, one of my daughters moved here with me. And when we first got here, I remember we went out on the beach and it was like maybe like three, four people. And the water was just like this most beautiful blue, clear, white sands. And I remember thinking, wow, we just like completely manifested something so magical. Like, wow. And I remember saying to her, now we just need the next part of it, to make it a complete picture. But I had so much healing that year from the waters. I mean, I would say, like, I mean, I literally spent almost every day at the beach in the evenings for sunset. So I still work. So I would go like almost every evening for sunset and just have like outburst of this like healing. Just sometimes I didn't even know it was happening. Just like the waters were just like healing me so deeply. And
Now, do you go to Siesta Key?
I don't go as much. My favorite is Lido. I usually go to
Okay.
Siesta maybe once, twice, every couple of weeks. It's just so many more people there.
Yeah.
So I tend to stay at Lido more so. In fact, the energy there feels so much more aligned with me, I should say. So,
Think there's a major ley line going through Sarasota because
oh,
I feel that when I'm down there too. And I don't know how much you've intermingled with the community there, but there's a big spiritual community there.
yeah, it's really interesting because when I moved here, everything was closed. So no one was doing anything in
Yeah.
person. So honestly, I really haven't met many people in the spiritual community here. I used to do some shamanic journeys at Wild Ginger when I was here, but people were just starting to come out and it was really, don't get close. It was kind of, people were still a little unsure. So I did a few events then, and then I left for a year actually. So, and that was totally unexpected. I thought I was going to travel for a few months, and it turned out to be an entire year. So I just,
Yeah. I remember seeing all those pictures. Now, what spurred that adventure?
I have to tell you that one thing I can say about my higher self is like when it's time to go, I get like this feeling like I have to go. Like
Wow.
there's nothing else that Like it doesn't matter. Like I have to go. And I mean, literally, miracles will happen to allow me to go. I mean, I've been supported by some beautiful people who just felt, oh, I need to do this for you. So, I mean, it's just all kinds of insane stories that, I could go on for
Oh,
days.
share a couple.
Okay, well, so my Egypt story was really like when I heard to go to Egypt, I mean, everything happened to get me to Egypt. I mean, the day that I was going, I was thinking, gosh, I don't even have any spending money right now, and I'm leaving tomorrow. I go to lunch with a friend of mine, a coworker, but she's more like a friend, and we used to have lunch together. And I was like, yeah, I'm leaving tomorrow. And I have everything planned, but like zero spending money until I get paid again. And she's like, oh my God, like this guy just gave this money to my father. And I was just going to stick it in the bank. Just you take this and, give it back to me when you get paid. Like, I mean, things like that. Like, a friend of mine called and said, you know what, I'm going to call my sister and my niece, and they're going to pick you up from the airport. You can stay at their house in Cairo. So it's like I have a new family in Cairo that I love, that I
Wow.
see every time I go. So just like amazing, amazing things. Seriously. I've been to Jerusalem. I've been to Kenya. Um, Trying to think of some of the other places. Big Island. The first time I went to Mount Shasta, I actually had never been until 2018. And a friend of mine called and said, I really want to go to Shasta, and I have some miles that I need to use before they expire. So you wouldn't even have to buy a ticket. And I was just like, oh, okay, I'll go. I go, and like, I couldn't even believe the experience that I had. And that was in June of 2018. I came back home and I could not sleep. Every night I felt like the mountain was calling out to me. I am not kidding. I actually
Wow.
asked my job, I said, is there any way you can just let me work remotely for 2 months? And she said yes. Just said yes, just like that. And I literally drove across the country and lived in Shasta for July and through almost through September. So
So, what did the mountain want from you, Robyn?
I think it was just more of myself, just integrating more of myself, you know? I have to say, like, I never like said, oh, I'm a grid worker or I'm a this or a that, but I do feel lots of stuff happens through my body when I'm in these places. And sometimes I feel like I'm gathering things to take to the next place. Um, I lived in Crestone. So let me go back to your original question was when I left here, I was thinking, you know what, I'm just gonna like travel a little bit and then come back because my daughter had left and I was thinking I'm gonna move to a different place. So I was like, well, let me just travel a bit. So I left in May of 2021, and the whole month of June I spent in Sedona and had like really insane experiences there. And then and then my father passed away completely unexpectedly, and I ended up
Mm.
being in the house when he left. So I'd
Wow.
gone to visit him, so that was like really nuts. And then I went to Big Island for my 50th birthday to stay with a friend. And I came back and I got COVID, and I got so sick that I basically was just about out of here. So that was the whole month of August. So
Oh
then
my
I
gosh.
bounced back, and then I ended up going to live in Crestone, Colorado for 2 months. I got called there. That was crazy. And
What 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 do you think this whole COVID thing is about? Because I've heard a lot of people have different theories on it, that it's some sort of, when you get it, it's like some sort of lesson or integration.
well, the one thing I can say is for my birthday that year, I had gotten a session with someone. And she said to me, this is before I got sick, she said, you're going to be taken offline and repopulated. These were her exact words. And I was like, what the heck does that mean? And I'm not kidding. It was days later I got COVID, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't watch TV. I couldn't eat. I couldn't even like look at a screen. I literally felt like I was lucid dreaming for a week and a half. And
Wow.
yeah, so it's like what she said exactly happened. So, you know, I think the way that I look at things now is that there's multiple truths, right? There's multiple layers and levels of truth. So on one level, yeah, COVID is this. On another level, it's this. It allowed all of us to rest and to regroup and to repopulate or integrate something or receive some type of rewiring. So I think there's multiple truths depending on what level or dimensional space you look at it from.
Very well said. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. So,
Um, so what's next for Robyn? Are you being called anywhere?
well, it's really interesting. I am. So I have a trip coming up the beginning of November that just got planned like a week ago. And I'm just like, wow, how am I going to do this? But it's happening. But I don't quite want to share just yet where. But um, so yeah, I literally am in meditation and it's like, no, you have to come and you need to come. And I literally said like, oh, I should just go after this because I have a wedding to be in. And it was like, nope, you need to go before.
Oh
And I'm
my.
just, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. So I have to say, like, that other part of me wants to go into, oh my God, how am I going to pay for this? This is going to put me into this. And, so there's that part of me that I'm still working through that wants to, like, stop doing this, stop doing this. But then another part of me is like, no, you have to be there. And it always works out. So it's just a little bit left of the doubt over here that I'm still working through.
Yeah, that's hard to get rid of, especially if you get, pushed into a corner and you're like, okay, there's some serious 3D shit I got to deal with.
Yes.
Bring it. I can't deal with it.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
wild. Oh no, I had another question for you.
Well, I know you asked like what's next for me, so I definitely feel like I'm still gonna travel. I mean, that is something that I love to do. I love to take photos. I
Oh
love to.
yes, the travel thing. For
Uh-huh.
the people that still have jobs like you and I, how do you do that? How do you fit that in?
Well, it's not easy.
I
um,
bet.
Well, like I said, like before everybody was remote, I just asked my boss. I said, I really want to go and live here. I mean, I'll make sure all the work gets done, and it was easy there because we're 3 hours, behind. So I could get up at 5 and I was finished working by 1 and I had the whole day to go explore. So recently though, like, I mean, I'm gonna have to take off to go where I'm going next.
Mm.
But luckily, I've been working remotely, so I can work anywhere from the US. So that hasn't been a problem. So I make sure I get up very early and I'm out at the beach. I'm watching sunrise, I'm taking pictures, and then I'm coming in and I'm doing my work. And then in the evenings, I do sessions, webinars, or nothing. And then I'm back out at sunset again because that's how I kind of balance myself by being outside. And it's like it just feeds and nourishes me so much that it's like just a few days without it, I'm kind of like, oh no, I can't handle it. I got to go outside. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way. I start to get like a caged animal. I don't like it. Um, so what do you see coming up for the remainder of the year? Because the energy feels very heavy, very dense. And it's almost like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop on something, but I don't know what it is. What have you been picking up?
well, a lot of people have been saying lots of predictions about, the financials and all that kind of stuff. Honestly, I have to say, I don't really tune into collective energy in that way. For me, it just feels like, you know, um, stay in the expanded view of we're in this space where these things have to break down. We know they're going to break down, but that you're going to be safe. And when I stay there, then it's like, okay, I don't have an attachment. I don't know what it's going to look like. So there's no need to worry about, what the impact is going to be to the money or to this or to that. It's like, no, we're always taken care of. And I mean, the hurricane was another perfect example of
Yeah.
that. I mean, I know that everybody was not as fortunate, but I think just the message like, you'll be safe. Sometimes we get tuned into, maybe you need to do this or go here or whatever. But so I think it's important to stay tuned in, meditating, knowing what your guidance is. But I think just remembering like we can exist in another space that does feel safe, that does feel, I don't even want to say feel safe, but where we know this is needed and necessary and we're going to be able to manage it.
Oh, so beautifully said, Robyn. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
I
you're
think
welcome.
a lot of people needed to hear that. Yeah, and I felt that too during the hurricane. I was like, it's hard because I'm super empathic and I'm really been trying to work on not letting that get into my field, but it does. And, everybody's scurrying around crazy, and I'm like, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine for me where I was.
Right.
And fortunately, you where you were, not so much for others. But I did feel like it was a very big clearing through
Absolutely.
here. Big, big, big clearing. And it's interesting. There's a lot of, I don't have another term other than light worker, but there's a lot of us here in this state right now. And many have moved in the past few years, which I find very interesting too.
Me too.
So something's going on with that. It'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see how it unfolds.
Yes, I think so. And for me, honestly, the work, I shouldn't say the work, or maybe I think the reason that I got called here or that I'm here has much more to do with the springs than it even does the ocean.
Oh, wow. Those springs are pretty incredible.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I have some really wild experiences when I go. So,
Share one.
so the last time I went to Rainbow Springs. That was my second time there. And when I came back, I was journeying, and there was a water being next to me swimming. And it was like she was like a transparent being, but like she was like the water essence, maybe. But she had a shape. And so, like, I saw her and like she was interacting with me. So it's like, this is where I'm saying, like, we really can't even begin to grasp, like, like all of the different dimensional levels and what water is, like the essence of water and the sentience of water. And then those springs and those aquifers have very pure energies. So when we get to interact with those, I feel like it changes us on a really profound level.
Mm.
So I feel more so that a lot of maybe why I'm here, maybe for myself, receiving more pieces of myself, whatever that looks like, whatever it is, all of it, um, I feel like happens really significantly at the springs as well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Florida's got a lot of magic to it.
Yes, it does.
So what can you share with people about your offerings? Do you have anything special coming up here that you want to share with everybody?
So I kind of just intuitively offer things. So right now I'm doing this cosmic journey, and it's a 5 week course. So we're on week. This will be week 3 this week, and that's been like super fun. It's really to help people to not be so afraid of what does it mean that we have these other, star systems or galactic aspects, and what does that look like when we bring them into the human and integrate and like work with that. So it's a really grounded practical course, so that's going on now and will be available to purchase afterward. um, I also have this Saturday I'm doing a holding space webinar, just around, all of my experience working with clients over the last few years, what I've learned. I'm just sharing for people who also are just getting into working with clients or just want to hear what I have to share. Um, I also do private, one-on-one sessions, and I do Akashic sessions as well, which is a little bit longer. But in my intuitive sessions, I'm really working deep with like those core wounds, inner child, um, kind of like the somatic work that I'm kind of moving into just happen naturally with, when you're in the womb and, the imprints and ancestors. And so just kind of working with those. And then with the galactic or Akashic, I depending on the person, if they're ready, and that's not determined by me, but if they're ready to start integrating more of their galactic aspects, then that can happen in a session. I've had a few that kind of lean toward that. It just depends. So I just allow whatever to come through me. Um, I shouldn't say whatever in that manner, but whatever
Right.
is in the person's, whatever is guided. I also use my Tibetan bowls, and so I combine that with light language when I do courses. And yeah, I have a few available on my website. I did a body transformation journey, and we worked for 8 weeks. That one was extremely, extremely strong, and people have had some really intense reactions, but some really good feedback from that. So that's available on my website as well. Um, so yeah, I'm kind of in a place now where I'm like really looking at like what I've been offering and kind of changing it a little bit. I do have an online like portal, and I don't charge members for it just yet, but I'm trying to figure out what I want to offer there for like, a lower subscription fee and then do something regularly there. So I'm kind of just like looking at what that looks like and what the next steps are, and like definitely doing some writing. So that's exciting for me.
You are a beautiful, multifaceted diamond, my dear.
Oh, thank you.
Wow. Wow. Well, I will post a link to your site below for everyone.
Okay, thank you.
And I so appreciate you spending time with me today.
Yes, this was so fun. Thank
It
you for
was
having
nice
me.
to get to know you, and we'll have to do something in person here in the near
Yes,
future.
yes, that would be awesome. Thank you.
All right, my dear. Thank you.
Thank you. Take
Bye
care.
bye.
Okay.